Most of non-technical founders, when they got a startup idea, they start to think, who can I ask to develop my app? Do I know a developer who could become maybe my co-founder? In this video, we're going to see that it's a tall order, and I will explain you why and what is the process to follow to partner with a CTO or a developer. The relationship between a developer and a co-founder or a CEO is really tricky. To illustrate that relationship, I'm going to just start by sharing a quick story, Tatiana's story. Tatiana is the founder of Prime Target, a SaaS tool to evaluate an international market potential by using global statistics and artificial intelligence. She came to me in the early 2018. She thought she had found a technical co-founder when she met an AI engineer. He started to work as a freelancer, building an AI algorithm that was unfortunately never finished. And he never delivered anything because he claimed to have spent more time on the algorithm itself, more than what he was paid for. So altogether, 8,000 euro for nothing. Just someone who worked on an algorithm and provided nothing that we can use. The sad thing is that Tatiana is just one among many. And I'm sure you heard the stories. I myself have dozens of startups that struggled with similar situations. Source code access, we talked about that in the previous videos, property disputes, etc. That's not uncommon between developers and business profile. Actually, that's a tricky relationship. And what you really need to understand is that not everyone who understands some tech is qualified to act as a CTO. A CTO must have a big picture, the business understanding, wider scope of all the tech and technologies, I would say, that are available out there to be able to choose what's the most relevant one, not the one that he knows the best, the most relevant for your project. And there are tons of other things with quality assurance, etc., that a CTO must know. And above all, a good CTO for the early stage, which is not the same thing as a CTO from large companies, I would say. A CTO in the early stage must be very, very good with a lean startup approach, starting by prototyping with existing tools. That's why finding a real tech co-founder adapted to your project, to your area, your expertise, your industry is really, really hard. Certainly harder than what you can think. Simply because most of founders are not qualified to evaluate a potential CTO. You might not be, if you are a non-technical founder, you might not be qualified to know which type of developer, which type of CTO you really need for your project. Or maybe which type of provider you need. And maybe which one can become someday your co-founder at some point. So until then, your developer providers cannot be your CTO. If you work with a provider, an agency, etc., it cannot be your CTO. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you work on service-based, what do you think your provider's goals are? It's to make money, like any businesses, right? So if they are working with you, they will try to sell you more services, more development, etc. And if they are not really aware, if they have a specific expertise in one language, as example, they might not be aware of the other options outside of their expertise. And that's what a CTO really come into place. That's why you cannot have just a provider without a CTO, because basically a good CTO will slow down maybe some development, will save you tons of money searching for solutions out of the box, reusing existing things, existing components, outsource things, etc., just to reduce the required work, just to test your positioning. And that's not what providers do. You remember when we put that line, the startup process that I introduced you already? Then when you develop a product, you have to wait until you are really sure that what's required. I mean, you are really sure that you test it again and again and again, your market, your concept, to test, learn with prototypes. Functional things, functional solutions with existing softwares can and are the best options. No-code solutions, etc., are the best options to test your market. And that's what the lean startup is all about. It's to test, learn, repeat. Test, learn, repeat. Or some even says, fail cheaper, fail faster. Because in order to succeed, you need to fail first. Most of the time, especially in startups environment, that's what happened. So now, maybe you already found your potential co-founder. Maybe you already have someone who is working on your development already. And that's great. And I just would like you to share that, unfortunately, here is what happened. Here is what's the plan. The classical plan is that maybe you agree with your partner, with your developers. We partner together. We develop that product. Here are the expected results. We build that product. We sell the product, and the team can get paid and can get a salary, etc. Unfortunately, most of the time, things don't work out that way. Sales are almost always too slow. The product is never finished. Clients are willing to pay, but for more features, which means more development. So, unless if your developer or your provider is Buddhist, rich, or crazy, the personal and financial constraints will prove to be too much. And he or she will give up. That's just the most predictable scenario. So that's why, again, I insist, don't develop a proper software during months if you don't have first a prototype or something to prove your market, to prove your tractions, to prove that your solution will work and attract clients. If you don't have that, don't start software development. And that's what could lead you to the most predictable scenario if you do so. So it also mostly happened because of a lack of understanding between the developer and the business profile, maybe you as a CEO. Because you don't have the same context, the same knowledge, and you don't have the same evaluation of what is good for the company. It's just a matter of perspective. Let me develop. For developers, good works means sustainable product, well documented, and interesting to build, which also means complex. Because it's interesting when it's complex, at least for tech profile, right? But for business owner, what good work means? Tools that allow me to make money, testing what's useful or not for my clients, understanding my customers. That's a totally different approach, totally different perspective, right? So the solution to this problem is definitely to use a translator between helping, the CEO to translate things to the tech profile. So basically, the business or marketing team to translate things to the tech team, which is usually the role of the product manager, to build that link between market and the tech. In addition to be a tech expert, it's basically what we teach as to non-technical founders, as my CTO friend, as a CTO friend. We teach to our client to become better product manager. But more on that later. Now, I would like you to dive into the relationship between the business founder and his co-founder. His tech co-founder, How to make it work. Because luckily, it's possible to find a tech co-founder. Yes, it is. It's going to take time. And I really hope that you will find yours soon. So here is the process that you need to follow. First, maybe you already know someone. Maybe you don't know how to move forward with him. Maybe you don't know if you should pay him or not on the beginning or to give him some equity. So I'm going to answer to that question to be straightforward. Don't get married with someone you just met. It's just too risky. A co-founder relationship should be built over years. And going through the challenges of building a business is definitely not a favorable context to build a long-term business relationship. There are too many difficulties. It's like having a baby from the first night. Not a good idea at all, right? That's the same thing. And it goes the same way with agencies who trade IT for equities. Some of them offer to develop your first version in exchange of 10 to up to 30% of your company. But there is a catch. The catch is that you will have to continue developing with them in the future, costing you much more than an internal team would. They might also charge you for app maintenance and any small changes in the software. And if the software hasn't been designed for you to be independent, they might charge you a lot. And most of these agencies also tend to reuse core components they've developed on their own for their own clients or their own needs. And most of the time, again, you need to check, they are not willing to give them away so easily. So the worst part is that if you as a startup were to partner with someone, and if you would like to leave this partnership someday, you might be forced to redevelop the entire solution. I've seen that a lot, many times. So the safest scenario from my point of view is to pay for services first, focusing on the smallest budget possible with a no-code strategy. Of course, not all projects can be built over no-code, but most of the time we can find a way to prove your market. And no, you don't have to be rich. I mean, on average, most of startups start with a budget between 10 to 20K euro or dollars, pretty much the same, from personal investments. And all that budget don't need to get in the tech part. You can get a prototype done with 2 up to 3K by a no-code agency. That's possible. But the work that you need to prepare in advance is really to know what to develop first. So to sum up, this relationship between tech and business profile. Start this relationship on a paid services basis, especially if you don't know that person. If you know that person for years, if you worked with them for like 5 years, that's another story because you already went through difficulties, etc. And you can consider going and being a co-founder right from the bat. Spend as little of your precious money as possible on developing the real product, but instead focus on prototyping. And finally, invest in real software development only once you proved your market. Now, I guess with this presentation, you should still have tons of questions, like who to trust on to build my prototype, like maybe how to raise funds without CTOs, or if you already have a prototype or even a product, maybe you wonder in which direction should I go now? What technology, what providers, what CTO do I need? And in the next part of this presentation, I will explain in detail actually what a CTO does in the early stage of a company, and how if you don't have the CTO, the proper one, the senior one who can handle all that stuff, how to make up for it. So in other words, what do you need to be successful without a tech co-founder? So I will see you in the next video to dive into that topic.